You know, your body is always walking this constant tightrope, trying to keep its water balance just perfect. Too much water, you've got problems. Too little, well, that's even worse. Today, we are diving deep into the kidney's absolutely ingenious smart sieve, the system that makes this whole life-saving balancing act possible. Have you ever really stopped to think about that? I mean, you're on a long hike, it's hot out, you're sweating, and somehow your body just knows. It knows it needs to hang on to every last drop of water it can. How in the world does it do that? Well, the answer is just a stunning piece of biological engineering. The secret, the magic behind it all, is something called the countercurrent mechanism. Okay, that sounds super technical, right? But don't worry. Just think of it as the kidney's master plan for a very simple choice. Either get rid of extra water or hang on to it for dear life. So to really get how this mechanism works, we first have to understand the problem it's built to solve. Your body is facing this constant water challenge. Stay perfectly balanced no matter what you're doing. So here's the core idea, the big picture. The kidney's main goal is to create a super salty environment deep inside itself, in a part called the medulla. Why do that? Because that crazy saltiness acts like a powerful magnet for water. And once that magnet is in place, your body has a choice. If you're dehydrated and need to save water, it can use the magnet to pull water back in. And if you're overhydrated, it can just let the water flow right on by. Simple as that. All right, so how on earth does the body build this incredibly important salt gradient? It needs a special piece of biological plumbing, a builder that can actively create this salty zone. And this is our builder. This whole diagram shows what's called a nephron. There are millions of these tiny filtering units in each kidney, but what we're focused on is that long, U-shaped tube dipping way down. That is the loop of Henle, the absolute star of our show. This is the countercurrent multiplier that's responsible for building our salt magnet. Now, the real magic of the loop of Henle is that its two sides, the two limbs, do the exact opposite things. The descending limb, the part going down, it's like a net. It's super leaky to water, so water can just flow right out. But the ascending limb, the part coming back up, is like a solid wall to water, totally impermeable. Instead, its job is to actively pump salt out into the surrounding tissue. And this is where that multiplier effect really kicks in, so follow the flow with me. As fluid goes down that first leaky limb, the saltiness outside pulls water out. That's step one. This makes the fluid still inside the loop way more concentrated, which is step two. Now, when the super salty fluid goes up the other side, that limb actively pumps all that salt out, making the medulla even saltier. And that's steps 3 and 4. And what happens then? Well, that increased saltiness outside pulls even more water out of the first limb. It's this brilliant self-reinforcing feedback loop. So what does all this multiplying get us? Well, the result is kind of staggering. The salt concentration, which we measure in milliosmoles, can hit 1,200 deep down in the medulla. Now, to put that into perspective, that is 4 times saltier than your normal blood and body fluids. A massive salt gradient has been built, all thanks to that clever little loop. Okay, so we've built this amazing, super salty environment. Great, but the job's not done, not even close. Now we have to protect it. I mean, it's a fair question, isn't it? The cells deep in the kidney still need oxygen and nutrients, and that means blood has to flow through there. But wouldn't a rush of blood just dilute this whole perfectly crafted salt gradient and just wash it all away? Well, of course, the body has an elegant solution. It's called the vasa recta. Take a look at the diagram. These are specialized blood vessels that form a hairpin loop that runs right alongside the loop of Henle. Their job isn't to build the gradient, but to act as a countercurrent exchanger to make sure it's protected. Here's how this clever exchange works. As the vasa recta carries blood down into the super salty medulla, 2 things happen. First, the intense saltiness outside pulls water out of the blood, and at the same time it pulls salt into the blood. So the blood itself actually gets saltier as it goes deeper. But then what happens? The blood makes that U-turn and starts heading back up towards the less salty regions. And now the exact reverse happens. Water gets pulled back into the blood vessel, and all those salts it picked up on the way down, they just diffuse right back out. So what's the secret sauce here? Well, it's that U-shape, which perfectly mirrors the loop of Henle, and the fact that the blood flows very, very slowly. It basically borrows some salt on the way down and gives it right back on the way up. So what's the net effect? The blood can deliver all its oxygen and nutrients without carrying away that precious salt. The gradient is perfectly preserved. It's amazing. All right, so let's recap. The gradient is built by the loop of Henle. It's protected by the vasa recta. So now, it's time to actually use it to make that final decision about water. This is where our final player, the collecting duct, enters the scene. This is the last tube, and it passes right through that powerful salt gradient we've worked so hard to build. But here's the kicker. Its walls aren't always leaky. Their permeability to water is actually controlled by a master switch hormone called ADH, or antidiuretic hormone. And this is where it all comes together in this brilliant control switch. If you're dehydrated, your brain releases ADH. That ADH travels to the kidney and basically opens up little pores or channels in the collecting duct. So as the fluid passes through the super salty medulla, water just rushes out and is saved by the body. The result, you produce very little, very concentrated urine. But if you're well hydrated, there's no ADH. The pores stay closed, the water stays trapped in the tube, and you produce a lot of clear, dilute urine. Okay, I know that was a whole lot of biology. So if you're going to remember just one thing from all this, what should it be? It really all boils down to this. The entire countercurrent system, the whole shebang, with its multipliers and exchangers, it has one single job: to create and protect that extremely salty environment, that hyperosmotic medulla. That saltiness is the fundamental tool the kidney uses, with ADH acting as the final say, to decide exactly how much water your body needs to save at any given moment. So the next time you feel thirsty, or maybe you notice the color of your urine changing throughout the day, just take a second to appreciate the incredible, silent, and ridiculously sophisticated balancing act that's happening inside you right now. The loop of Henle multiplying, the vasa recta exchanging, the collecting duct making the final call, all of it working in perfect harmony just to keep you perfectly hydrated. It's truly an amazing piece of natural engineering.